have a guest logged in tonight, Kristen.
Hi there. I just felt the need to join today. I thought you guys were an interesting committee, and I'm kind of interested in getting a little more involved with the town government. And this seemed like sort of aligned with some things I'm interested in. So I thought I would join and see what you guys are all about.
Well, we are very glad that you decided to join us this evening.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Kristen, I'm sorry, I might have missed your last name. I'm taking minutes.
Oh, sure. It's Cormier, Cormier.
Cormeir. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that we are all here, shall we get right into the agenda? And I had neglected to put this on the last meeting that we had over at the library, but I do want to try and do some housekeeping here and review and accept the meeting minutes that Mike had sent out on in the middle of January. Has everybody had a chance to look through those and see if there's any changes or updates that we need to make? Okay. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes as posted? Hello, anyone?
So moved. Lori, I'll move that.
Second.
And we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Mike? All right, vote is unanimous to accept the motions as the minutes as posted.
I would like to note one thing. I didn't have any minutes for November.
For November.
I believe it was recorded. If anybody, took any notes, please try to turn them into minutes, or we'll just have to go without it.
What I will do is I'll get hold of Denise tomorrow or Thursday and see if we can get some sort of transcription from if it was recorded.
If it was recorded, just let me know and I'll turn that into minutes. But I think I might have looked for recorded, but it wouldn't hurt to check again.
Yeah. Okay. Next is the Phase 2 Pratt and Mill Pond management plans. I had sent those up to the town manager back on the 17th, and they kind of got lost in the shuffle. So I don't know if the recommendation has been opened officially by the town, or if they have reviewed either of the price proposals for accepting TRC as the vendor on Phase 2 of that. And I will follow up with the town manager on that also, which kind of segues right into item 3, which was the Mill Dam inspection report that came out. And Mike, can I ask for a little more background on that, please? From the Mill Dam report from 2022, and it basically showed the same picture that you had in the presentation to the select, the water leaking under the tubies that are in there to help regulate the water level.
I have a lot of barking right now, but I'll try to try to summarize it quickly. What I provided to town manager and Brett, who's selectman, was some aerial imagery from 2022, which shows how the Mill Pond dewatered through the summer. And I also had a picture that was taken, I'm not sure exactly the date, I think it was around July, of the actual outlet weir, which showed a great deal of seepage coming through that structure. And what I suggested to do, that the town do is basically fund a evaluation of the weir next summer. You have an engineer take a look at it and see what kind of repairs are needed, and maybe come up with a cost estimate. The dam was inspected in 2022, but the inspection occurred in late November. So, and the inspection report does not mention the seepage, and that's not unsurprising, because once the water is spilling over the weir, you can't see the seepage. You just can't see it. And I guess town manager and DPW director are going to get together and discuss it. And I haven't heard what the results of that discussion, if it's occurred, are. Right now, there is a placeholder article that I wrote for the town meeting warrant in May. So, and I did that. The warrant was due. The warrant articles were due late last month, and I didn't have time to really consult with the committee formally, this committee or Concom. So that was just my own initiative.
The impression that I got from the town manager's email, was kind of twofold. They wanted me as the chair to forward that, and I would gladly do that. But I also got the impression that they wanted to hold off on any decision making in reference to those potential dam repairs until they talked to DPW. Bill, do you know if there's been any discussion concerning the mill dam?
I believe the director has talked with Ty and Bond about providing either information. I think he's talked to Ty and Bond about providing some high-level estimate of what it might cost to do an engineering study.
All right. Since I'm still kind of new at working my way through the town government, if I submit that warrant article that Mike
No.
had
So
sent us a
Dave,
proposal.
it's already been submitted. I submitted it prior to the deadline. So
Oh, okay.
this committee's all set. I mean, I think what this committee could do, if you want to take a vote and encourage the selectmen to in some way fund that evaluation.
Yeah,
that would be
a
great.
concurring opinion. Yeah.
But Bill, do you have any idea what the cost might be?
I'm not aware that they have provided anything yet.
Okay. And Ty and Bond is the company that did the 2022 inspection, so they're familiar with the dam. But so I think we're just, if the committee wants to endorse, that kind of a study, which I think is personally is important to do. Awful lot of water is seeping through the dam under low flow conditions, and looking at it carefully, I think 1 to 2 feet probably of water in the pond is probably lost through the summer through the seepage. But that's just a guesstimate right now based on the photograph I took.
And referring back to the midsummer photograph, I think the weed growth that's in there would probably account for the other missing water in there, because it was just absolutely solid weed cover when I saw it a couple of years ago. Wasn't so bad this year, but last year, 2023, it was just a solid mat of weeds. And I didn't think there was any moving water in there at all.
This summer drawdown seems to have been occurring since at least 2014. We have this pretty high resolution aerial imagery called near map imagery, and it goes back to 2014, and you could see evidence of late summer drawdowns, all the way back to 2014.
Interesting.
Can you help me understand exactly what this dam is, which dam this is?
It's Mill Pond Dam. It is, the dam itself is right next to Fin and Feather.
Okay, that's what I thought. All
And then
right.
water spills over the spillway and immediately goes through a culvert under 140. And then
Okay.
it opens up by the church.
All right, that would explain what Dave was saying, how it dries up because it's leaking out. It's not holding any water from there all the way to Pratt.
If you
Correct.
give me a few minutes, I can find, I can share with you the imagery.
Mike, are you saying that there's an intentional draw done on Mill Pond?
No, it's not
No.
intentional.
Okay,
It's just
so we're
water
losing feet
seeping
every
through-
year.
is seeping through the outlet.
Yeah, I don't know if the sluice gate is leaking either, because the mechanical gears that would open up the bottom of the dam, I don't know if there's water leaking through that as well.
It could be.
But there's, the Mill Pond is like it looks almost like there's a foot of water in there during the entire summer. It gets really, really low.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to endorse that study for sure by this committee.
That sounded like a motion.
It's, I can, if you want, I can try to share the picture.
Yeah.
Cooper is not allowed to make motions. He thinks he is, but he is not. It's just isn't. Share screen. He'd like to.
I was gonna say he sounds not he sounds unhappy by not being allowed to.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to really hear his motions, I don't think. All right, can you see?
There's the dam.
So I don't know if you can see my cursor, but
Yeah, I can.
right near the top, there's a couple of ring bolts
Mhm.
there and there. And I believe this is what's called a stop log, basically probably about an 8-inch high wooden log or plank. It can be brought up by hooking those two eye bolts and pulled up. Then below that, you can see there's a seepage area here, very clearly, here. I'm guessing this might be about 2 feet right here, roughly. But that's just a guess. Anyway, you can see, so all the water that's leaving the pond is through seepage here. No water is spilling over the actual spillway.
Wow.
How did you get this photograph?
I risked my life, Lori. I walked into the culvert, and snapped a photo and ran away. No, it's
Is that
Wow.
box culvert tall enough to stand up underneath there, Mike? It
Oh,
looks like
yeah.
it's plenty tall enough.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I didn't have boots, so I could have walked right up to the spillway. So that's one. The other.
How much are we asking for in this warrant article to do
We're
this
not-
work? Is
We're
that what?
not asking for anything. Like Bill said, it's a DPW responsibility, I think, and they're gonna, I think they're gonna get a cost estimate from the engineering service. Can you see the imagery now?
Yeah,
No,
I've
we're
seen
still
it.
stuck on the dam.
Same picture.
Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing and try sharing again.
What are we asking for in the warrant article?
We're not asking for anything. If there is a warrant article, I think it would be sponsored by either the selectmen or the DPW. I wrote it as a draft without a sponsor, just to get them thinking about it. Okay, how about now? Can you see the,
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
yeah. So this is from, well, March of 22 is on the left, and August of 22 is on the right. You can see how part of that is vegetation. Part of it is dewatering. It's just the water, it's mud flat. And this is kind of typical of most years, I think.
From my observations, yes, it's very typical. And Mike, can you put your pointer over where the box culvert is located down on the lower left there?
I can try here. It's not letting me.
No, it's not letting you hover over the picture. That's interesting.
Yeah, it isn't. But
We can
to the
see it. We can
lower
see it
right,
behind the picture.
it's the lower left-hand corner. You can see the building there is Fin and Feather, and just to the left of it is where the culvert, or where the spillway is, the dam.
It is
So-
my understanding that the state intends to do something with the culvert in the next 5 years or something. You know, I mean, they're redoing 140 in the next 2 or 3 years. And so that culvert runs under 140.
Mm-hmm. So we have a motion to basically file a concurring opinion on the engineering study for the culvert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who made the motion?
That would have been Sally,
So,
intentionally or otherwise.
Yes. Dave, do you remember that the first time I met you, we were at a workshop in Marlboro? Where
Yes,
they were doing a presentation on, was it called like a stormwater tax or something?
the stormwater management, there was a 3-part thing to it. And yes, it was about stormwater management and about, you know, various sources of funding through the cities and towns. I don't know if Upton has any sort of taxing authority.
No, we
So-
don't have that, but Westboro embraced it. I think Ashland, a few other towns. It took several, it wasn't an easy process to, you know, win the town over, but it's basically a tax that's directly related to the percentage of non-surface
Im-
area,
Impermeable surfaces.
surface area that you have, whether you're a business, you're a school, or a home, that through, you know, GIS or satellite or whatever, they can tell how many square feet of non-pervious surface you have, and you get a tax. It's not a lot, but it adds up a lot for the town, and then the town uses that funding to repair things like culverts and things that are damaged along the way. And the towns that presented their that do it have been extremely happy with the source of funding, and it's distributed between the entire, everybody in the town, all businesses, all schools, all everything. Everybody pays a percentage based on their non-pervious surfaces.
That was the seminar that was hosted by SOASCO, wasn't it? The Sudbury, Assabet, and Concord River Association.
No,
Do
down
you
the road, we might be thinking how to go in that direction, you know, to start thinking about something like that.
That was a really interesting presentation.
Yeah.
I remember sitting through that. Do you still have any of the information that the handouts or anything that they had from that?
I can look around for that. I might have that, but it was really fascinating. The towns said it wasn't an easy sell. They had to really talk to the town, have several town meetings for it before people realized the impact and exactly what their dollar contribution would be.
So it was a bylaw, a town bylaw?
If
I don't know if I can look that.
If I remember correctly, I think it was through bylaws, um, or warrant articles. They presented several different scenarios on how to get it approved through the town.
Mhm.
So that's,
And-
might want to
and-
look into that.
In which town? You know,
I know Westboro passed
West,
it.
oh,
and I'm-
Westboro, okay.
Yeah,
Ashland also did.
Ashland did, and I think there were like 4 or 5 towns that did it, and they've been extremely happy with having that source. So when you have these situations where you need funding, there's a pool for it.
Mhm.
You're not trying
Yeah,
to
that's
dig into your town.
That sounds like something to really think about.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at some point, if people decide to do something with Mill Pond beyond just a spillway problem, it's going to be expensive.
It is going to be expensive, right? And so you actually have this account that takes care of that.
Yeah, it looks
And
like,
So can you say the motion that's on the table?
In motioning for a concurring opinion on the Mill Dam engineering study.
And I have by Sally and then seconded by Lori. Who seconded? Lori seconded.
Lori
I
did.
did, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So all in favor of the motion?
aye,
Aye.
I,
And again, the motion is unanimously carried. So moving on to item number 4 and item number 5, both relate to the Mass Department of Fisheries and Wildlife. I made 2 points of contact up there. Jason Stolarski, who provided me with a compressed file on fisheries data, and it's not just Pratt Pond and it's not just Mill Pond, it's most of the ponds in Upton. And the other point of contact was Dave Seaback, and he is basically their bathymetric survey director. And I forwarded him a copy of the bathymetric survey that somebody had done on Wildwood several years ago with, I believe, 1 foot increment survey lines, plus the 2 from the 70s that I got from Fisheries and Wildlife. And he seemed very interested in coming back and possibly doing a more formal bathymetric survey of Wildwood. I don't know if any of the other ponds in Upton are large enough that it would warrant bathymetric surveys of, but Dave Zeback also sent me a link to a depth sounder, a mapping depth sounder, where an individual could basically map a pond and create those GIS type bathymetric surveys, which I thought was pretty interesting. I haven't looked into any of those. I imagine they're probably fairly expensive. And right now, I don't think that we even want to visit possibly buying one of those. So I'm going to kind of table that. But the fisheries data that Jason Stolarski sent me goes all the way back sometimes into the 1920s. There is a lot of information in there. Some of it is very sporadic, but it's kind of interesting looking at that far back at the fisheries in Upton. If anybody's interested, I would be glad to share that with the committee. I have to break that down into smaller packets, but if you folks would like, I'd be more than happy to share that with you.
Is this something that you need to be able to scan in, I'm assuming, or is it digital?
It's all digital. It's already been scanned. If I send you the files, he sent it to me in a zip file, and I can pull out the individual ponds and forward them that way. The whole package itself is like 5 gigabytes, which is a little too big for emailing. But I can send you the individual pond data if anybody would like that. And
Be
Kristen,
interesting to see what was here historically. Now
Yes.
we feed the pond, now we stock it, but in those days they probably didn't. So it'd be nice to know what originally was here.
actually, some of the ponds they did stock, and there's some interesting stuff. A couple of the ponds in town were privately owned, and the landowner, if the pond was stocked, could keep the general populace from fishing in their ponds. So they had it kind of privately. It didn't include Pratt, it didn't include Mill. I think Fisk Mill Pond might have been one of those, and there was one or two others, but there were a couple of ponds that were privately owned, and the landowners had the ability to keep the general public from fishing in their ponds, which was days gone by. And that point led me to the question about Fisk Mill Pond, which is right next to the Nipmuc Rod and Gun Club. And there's signs posted all around there that the pond is only for Nipmuc Rod and Gun Club members. Does anybody have any idea of how they're able to? Do they own the pond outright, or do they own all the lands outside of Fisk Mill Pond, or does anybody know?
I don't know, but I had the impression it was their pond. Maybe it's one of the, was one of the privately owned ponds. Maybe it still is.
It may be. It may be. It's going to be interesting. I will have.
Bill, do you know if the DPW owns or the town owns the dam?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's not, I've not seen it listed anywhere as something the town is concerned with.
Yeah.
Right.
And Kristen, you're our guest. If you're interested, I would also be willing to share those files with you as well. If you can give me an email address and you're interested, I'll send them to you.
Sure, I'll throw my email right in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kristen, do you live on one of the ponds in town?
So I don't. I actually live on South Street, like on the corner of Goss and South. But I actually grew up on Lake Maspinock on the Hopkinton side. So I just have an interest in maintaining our open spaces and our lakes and things. So I just, like I said, I wanted to get more involved in government and town government, and I just thought this might be an interesting committee. So
Sounds great.
We do have openings in the committee.
yeah, so I saw that on the town website. So that's kind of, I was looking at the openings, and but yeah, I don't really know much about town government or anything. So I thought I would join and see what goes on and on these meetings.
Well, I don't know if you want to call it full disclosure, but I have very little history with dealing with town governments myself. So I just became the chair of the committee last month. So I'm still feeling my way along. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And this committee is about 2 or 3 years old, would you say?
3 years old.
3 years old, yeah.
And how often do you guys meet?
We meet once a month. We actually, for the first time, had 2 meetings in January because we had so much stuff to discuss. One of the things that we had done a couple of years ago was we had a baseline survey of Pratt Pond done. And if you're familiar with Pratt at all, it is the most heavily used pond in Upton for fishing and boating and skating. There's
And
just
the camp
Uh,
camp and swimming.
the camp, yep, and yeah, canoeing and kayaking. So it's a very, very heavily used pond. We did some, when I say baseline surveys, we did a lot of algal surveys and water temperature and dissolved oxygen. And we took a whole year's worth of data and put all that on spreadsheets. And we're hoping to do the same thing again this year. So we'll have more than 2 years worth of data that we can compare and look at trends. Also looking at, and this is not on the agenda, but I kind of wanted to revisit the numbers of other committees that we work with. The Board of Health, Community Preservation, Conservation Committee, DPW. Bill Taylor is our DPW rep. The Green Designation Committee, does anybody know anything about that?
Bill?
You do, Lori?
Yes, I do. It never changed the name from the Green Designation Committee. So that name reflects the period of time when we were working on getting the town designated a green community.
Okay.
And the designation, it's essentially all about using less energy.
Okay, so sort of a leads kind of thing.
That would be part of it.
Yeah.
There's a stretch energy code. One of the things we needed to do is adopt the stretch energy code. And then we committed to taking steps to conserve energy, the town taking steps to conserve energy. So we have done a bunch of energy conservation projects, and we're working on one now to convert the town's streetlights to LEDs from high pressure sodium,
Okay.
which actually reduces the energy use of the streetlights by about 75%.
I know before I retired, I was changing all of the fluorescence in the building where I worked to LEDs, and it made a huge difference. I had about 2/3 of the light fixtures that I had changed from fluorescence to LEDs, and it dropped the electric usage by about 1/3.
Yep.
So going to LEDs really does make a difference. But there's a whole bunch of other committees work that we do on this committee might have some interest. And one of the things we want to do this coming year is not just continue to concentrate on Rat Pond, but we also want to start looking at some of the other ponds. The next biggest body of water in Upton is Lake Wildwood. So we want to kind of start branching out on our sampling and seeing what the water quality in some of these other bodies of water are. So that gives you a little idea of what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have the recreation committee on there as well?
Yes, I do. I have finance, land stewardship, mosquito and tick control, open space, planning, RecCom. So yeah, there's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, there's 11 committees. Just looking on the town website that I saw that some of our work may be of interest to them.
Yeah, I don't have any like background in any sort of natural science or anything. I work in IT as my day job. But I, the environment's very important to me, and obviously this is an important committee. So I just thought this kind of aligned a little bit, although I don't know how much I can bring to the table. But just thought I'd get more involved.
Well, that's a wonderful thing, and that's basically where I came from also. I live here in Upton. I fish here in Upton, and that's where my interest came in. It was more of a parochial interest, self-interest kind of thing, as opposed to, really wanting to become involved in the town government. And here I am, chair. Yay me! But we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
First Monday of every month, and the agendas will always be posted on the town website, and you're welcome to stop in anytime.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
So And luckily enough, we are out of agenda items. Anybody have any last minute things that they want to add or items they want to raise? Okay. So are we
I move that we
So-
adjourned.
You
have a motion
submitted
to
the
adjourn?
budget and everything? Did you submit the budget, Dave?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
And does anything come back or they just take it the way we submitted it?
I have not heard anything back from the town manager. So that's one of the things that I wanted to follow up on. They were delaying opening the phase 2 proposals from TRC and GeoSyntech until after the budget meetings are all done. So he told me it would be about 2 weeks. And I have not heard any feedback about the budget proposal to see whether it's actually going to make it, onto the warrant or not. And I wanted to follow up on that.
Well, whether or not it makes it on the warrant will be a decision made by the Board of Selectmen, or
Yes.
Select Board, excuse me. They're starting the discussion about the warrant tomorrow night at their meeting.
So maybe I will drop in on that.
So there are generally a lot of articles. And they'll all get discussed at some point. And then the Finance Committee will also either participate or do an independent review of the warrant articles, at least the ones with financial impact.
So in other words, we won't know until we know.
Well, it's a process,
Yes.
right? And then the other, I do know that from a DPW perspective, we're working on our budget, and there's apparently a shortfall at this point, a deficit that needs to be worked out.
So they might be a little less amenable to further expenditures for.
Yeah, essentially at this point, people have asked for more money than we have.
Yeah.
But there's the ability to raise it through taxation, property taxation, but there's free cash that can be used. So, that's the sort of thing that gets worked out as we go through this process, what the source of funds will be for it.
When I was talking with the town manager, he had mentioned, because we don't have any funding available right now for the early spring as far as continuing with the algal samples in Pratt, but he did mention that, I won't call it free cash, but available, that they do have some limited funding that might be that they might be able to make available for that, so we can continue and I'll have to see how good my salesmanship is.
Yeah, that reminds me of something. I just got a printout on the CPA accounts. And I think all of our vouchers have been paid. I've got to confirm that. But if they have, we have a $360 balance left. So we do have a few bucks left for next year.
Okay.
And I believe everything should have been paid because all the vouchers were submitted quite a while ago. Which would
It
be
doesn't go
enough.
back to the general fund? If we
No,
don't
it's
use it?
CPA. It just sits there until
Right. Oh, yeah. No, that's
till
great.
it's expended or the CPA can close it out and return it to the CPA bucket. But and that would be enough to do some nutrient sampling, early next season. You can, if you want to do more phytoplankton, you can archive those and don't have to pay for those until later.
Did we ever, Gary always called them the get the metal assays done. Did we ever get all of those sent, or did we miss out on that window?
We missed out on that because of the holding times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
For nutrients and metals. So,
Yep.
that was
So
unfortunate, but we just.
It might be interesting to have some early spring data on that. And do we have a point of contact at the Board of Health? Because one thing I need to do as part of our sampling is make sure that we're not duplicating the efforts that the Board of Health does when they do water quality sampling over at the beach. We're a couple of 100 feet away from the beach when we're doing our samples, but I still want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts.
So yes, you can contact Diane Tiernan, who's the administrator for the Board of Health. My understanding is they test for E. coli exclusively,
Okay.
but she can confirm that one way or another for you.
So our testing, we're not looking at E. coli, but we're definitely looking at blue-greens. So that may be advantageous to them as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the quality, I think, of our phytoplankton data is far superior to what they have. I've seen some of their data. Basically, if they have a hint of a blue-green bloom, they take a sample, and then you get back a very scrap of paper lab report that says whether or not there were blue-green algae there and an estimate of the density. They don't provide like a whole list of the species there that we're getting from aquatic analysts.
I've been kind of interfacing with the Board of Health on some of the things we did in the past. I had gotten some information from Diane to send to Mike. Mike, do we get the 2024 data from them yet?
No,
We have 2022 and 3, I think, right? I don't know if we have 2024.
For what it's worth, the state mass mapper identifies Fisk Mill Pond as a low hazard dam under private ownership.
Okay. Thank you for that, Bill.
Yeah.
And the pond's not very deep. Chris Scott and I went. There was some wetland issue there. I don't remember. It was probably 20 years ago. So we put in my canoe and we paddled around a little bit, and basically hit rocks, boulders. It's just
Plenty of them in there.
A lot
full
of
of
rocks
boulders.
there.
And it's not very deep, I don't think. But there was at least one really big goldfish, big orange goldfish in there.
So the man who used to be on this committee, Ed Bergman,
Ed Bergman.
he was a member of the Nipmuc Gun Club, and I met him, and he was a fly fisherman. So he came to my school and taught a bunch of my third graders how to do fly fishing, and then he invited them there and showed them how to make them, and then they did some fishing there.
That's pretty cool.
It was very cool. And he made a whole big display for my library where the kids had to figure out which flies went for which kind of fish. It was really wonderful.
That's cool. I need to kind of circle back to Jason Stolarski. He also gave me 2 points of contact. For one is for the Worcester Lakes and Ponds Committee, and they do some of the same water sampling that we're doing. I don't know if they're concentrating just on Quinsigamond or some of the other bodies, but there's a point of contact there. And a DEP, I can't even read my own writing here. DEP sounding liaison for the surface water quality standards. I don't remember what that note is about, but I've got a couple of other points of contacts that I intend on reaching out to. You know, I don't want to expand how far we're reaching out too much yet. But I think it, you know, rather than completely reinventing the wheel, it might not be bad to have some other outside like-minded committees that are, you know, maybe give us some helpful hints on how to be more successful. So I will try and have some of that information for next month's meeting.
We can invite
Dave,
somebody to a
I've got-
meeting.
I have a kind of a little library of lake and pond reports done around Massachusetts, and a lot of those were done by or for lake committees or pond committees. A lot of them are just a specific pond.
Mhm.
Some are more townwide. And that kind of brings something up. Way back when, like probably, well, just in the beginning, I think I set up a Google Drive spot for files for this committee. And I need to go back and try to find that Google
Okay.
account. And if I can, I'll send you around information. And that would be a place that we could post, you know, reports like those, the fisheries data, Dave, that you just recently came
Mhm.
across, our own data. And then it would be on a Google, and we could access it whenever we needed it. The other thing I think we should do, aside from that, is some of our main reports, for example, like the data report from last year and the data report we're going to have for this year, is give that to probably we can give it to Mary, the conservation administrator, and she can put it on the T drive at town hall or the town's computer system, so that there's a copy there. And some of these reports we might want to have a hard copy, and have that hard copy stored at town hall as well. Just so, because the town spent, you know, $50,000 on this. Sorry, the town spent $50,000 or so on that, the data that TRC collected, and we don't want in 5 or 10
Yeah.
or 20 years for it to disappear. We
Mhm.
want to have it archived safely somehow. And
Well,
I think
have it
the best-
electronically, and I printed a copy of it, so hard copies are a non-issue.
yeah, and I think hard copies are probably, I think most people, Laura, you're a librarian. I think a lot of people would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that hard copies are probably still the gold standard for long-term safe preservation. But anyway,
Okay.
I'll try to either find that Google Drive account or create a new one and send around the information.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other final thoughts? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn from Bill, seconded by Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
And again, we are unanimous. And
We
Kristen,
have a meeting. We got a meeting next month on the first Monday, right? March 3rd.
March 3rd, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Kristen, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And good night, everyone.